Hey everyone, it's Matthew here, Community Support Provider for Public Health and Human Services. It's great to see you all over the digital world that has become such a regular part of our lives these days. I want to dive right in and talk to you about a little bit of an unexpected topic, at least for me, and that is the topic of grief and grieving our loss. And I say it's unexpected because I was talking to someone recently and they were expressing to me, some of the different reactions they're having to everything, and this person named the feeling of grief, and that feeling, to hear somebody say that, it was like an aha moment occurred for me because I realized that there was something I was experiencing that I did not have a name for, and it is grief, and that I am grieving. And so I'm going to talk just a little bit about that today, and hopefully share some ways that can help us all grieve the losses we're experiencing. I think for me, I typically associate grief with death, and death is certainly a loss, and it's a loss that many people are experiencing right now. It didn't occur to me that there are a lot of other losses that can produce a feeling of grief that we're all experiencing right now. And a big one is the loss of our routine. And under that sort of umbrella of losing our routine, that can also include the loss of financial stability, social connection, trust in our system right now, and also the loss of a general feeling of safety that most of us, but not all of us, experience on a regular basis. I think it can be scary when what is familiar changes. A lot of these things that have just been normal to us have just been totally turned upside down. And in the midst of all of those emotional reactions to that, there is this one of grief. And so what is that feeling? I think the answer is that grief is just a normal, natural reaction to a loss of any kind. A helpful way I found to describe it now for me is that feeling of when you reach for something that is familiar and you find that when you need it, it's not there. And that's that reaction. And so the experience is grief, and the process of grieving is how we work through the loss of things we need or want or expect or even dream of. A few signs that you can think about that may be related to an experience of grief is eating more than normal or a lot less, maybe sleeping more or sleeping less. Those are ones that I've heard a lot of recently. Difficulty in focusing on tasks that are usually normal. Irritability with your significant people in your life. I think another one that I didn't think about as much was, does what you're feeling now seem familiar to a past loss that you've had to work through? That can be a sign that you're grieving. Another one I know I've been guilty of is just avoiding talking about the coronavirus altogether, or making jokes about it, or wanting to always change the subject because the talk of it can feel uncomfortable. And then especially if you're engaging in what you can think of as short-term energy relieving behaviors like shopping online at this point, excessive exercise, or drinking. Those can all be cues that you may be experiencing loss. So what do we do with all of this? I think that's the harder question, but I think the answer it can be really comforting, that we just have to grieve. And we can't do that. We can't move forward with creating new ways of being in the world right now until we do grieve our losses. And grief is not grieving is not solving a problem. Grieving is more about bearing witness to what has occurred and what is occurring. So how do you bear witness? Well, it's a good question. It's simply sharing our stories with one another. If we don't talk about it, we won't work through it. And so that involves taking time to name what has been lost. We talked about a few of those, but there are more. And ask your loved ones to do the same. And go first. When you lead by sharing, other people will likely follow. And that involves telling the truth about yourself, so other people can feel comfortable to do the same. And when you're doing that, to avoid judging what's being shared or criticizing it or analyzing it. It's just about the sharing of the stories. And that goes for your own story. The whole idea here is that we can't heal what we don't have an awareness of, and when we share our stories, we cultivate that awareness. And I think the important additional element to that is to feel to feel those stories. And that can be, like sitting down for a long haul session and hashing through your story with somebody, but it can even be little blurbs of it, like telling a coworker or family member, like, I'm having a hard time, or I had a good cry last night. When we name it and we feel it, it moves through us. You can think about emotions as things that need motion. And if we can bear witness to our grief by telling our stories and feeling our stories for one another, we can start to move into what's next for us as a community. And what's cool is that can involve also writing, singing, creating, sculpting. There's numerous ways to bear witness and create and tell our story. And I'm really excited and looking forward to doing that with you all, and hearing the stories from our community as we continue to move through our grief and move forward. So thanks for joining me with this heavy topic today. I look forward to seeing you again soon.